On election night, Town of Hempstead voters will decide whether to re-elect Republican Town Supervisor Don Clavin or reward Democrat Olena Nicks with a seat in America's largest township. Joining me to discuss her candidacy for Town of Hempstead Supervisor is financial analyst, firefighter, and trustee of the Uniondale Public Library, Olena Nicks. Olena, thank you for coming on.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So let's start off about why you ran, because in 2021 you ran to become Hempstead Town Clerk. You did ultimately lose that race to incumbent Kate Murray. What inspired you 2 years later now to run for the supervisor seat?
I guess I really never lost the inspiration to, lead America's largest township or be one of the leaders within. I have been civically engaged for such a long time, and what I'm seeing on the ground is that residents feel ignored. Their quality of life is not improving, and they really need someone who's going to represent them well. And I think most importantly, what we really need to see on the town board is a bit more diversity. We don't have any millennial representation on the town board as it currently is, which means that there is certainly a forgotten gap, and our generation really could use it.
Now, you go into quality of life and some of your various, large goals. What is your biggest priority if elected town supervisor?
Absolutely. My biggest priorities is housing, and it starts with developing a plan. Right now, the town does not have a plan for how they are addressing housing. And, I understand that they were against some of the proposals that had came up, which is absolutely fine. But then that should have kickstarted a plan for housing, and the town is responsible for the zoning and the ordinances. And we really need to kind of buckle down and develop a plan for how we're going to address accessibility to housing, affordability, and being able to address the concerns of pretty much everyone when it comes to that.
What plans are those? What specific ways will you go about improving that?
So, for me personally, the first thing that I want to do is be able to bring the stakeholders to the table, and whether that's our land trust, who are, developing on their end affordable housing in a way to make home ownership realistic for many individuals, bringing some of our different varied populations and community voices. But I think that we need to start to look at the possibility of multi and mixed use developments, where you have your apartments and living spaces on the top and then your businesses on the bottom. I truly believe that that is a way that we can both drive small business revenue, but also be able to provide housing that is affordable within everyone's tax bracket.
Let's go further into that because, as I'm sure you're aware, various areas of Hempstead are wealthier than others. I'm going to go a bit deeper. For instance, according to Realtor.com, the median home price in nearby Garden City, 10 minutes from here, is almost double that in Uniondale, where me and you are both recording from. Let me ask you two things. Why is this the case? And what can be done to increase the value of homes in the neighborhood?
Well, believe it or not, if we look at homes in Uniondale, they're certainly not going for $1 million, but in depending on where you're looking, they're going for something very close. We were looking at houses that are going for almost 800,000 and up. And I think that it's all about kind of what I started with in the beginning, the quality of life. So when you go to Garden City, they have 7th Street, and you can go on 7th Street and park your car and you can go work out. You can go get a bite to eat after. You can, meet your neighbor there, and everyone seems to know each other, and there's that sense of safety. Because Garden City, what they have done is developed a sense of safety and community, and camaraderie, with the residents that are there. Unfortunately, we have not seen that same attention in Uniondale. And, Garden City is at the advantage because they are a village, so they have a village board. But we need to be able to do that, the same things in Uniondale. And the township really needs to put that effort behind that.
And let's talk about crime. Of course, the crime rate in Hempstead is higher compared to other areas on Long Island. In what ways would you seek to reduce crime in the town?
Yeah, and I think that it really comes from being able to develop programs. So we have to look at this multifold. One, it's developing youth programs to get them to be engaged and something to keep them out and off the streets. And two, the cost of living is so high right now. So what we're really seeing are crimes of poverty, and we need to be able to find incentives and funding and ways to reinvest in communities so that crime doesn't seem like that's the only option. And I think that that starts with seeking more federally funded grants, being able to cater to our entrepreneurship individuals and help them develop their businesses and get them on the right track. I think that when we start to build and create these communities that are more welcoming, we will see crime decrease.
Would you seek to increase the amount of funding that first responders, police officers are receiving currently?
Unfortunately, the town of Hempstead does not, we're not responsible for the funding of police officers, but what we do have is public safety. And that is something that I'm absolutely looking forward to, is that our public safety officers sometimes are the first ones before the police officers get there. So one, they need to be protected and they need to feel safe, but also they need to be equipped to feel like they can do their jobs efficiently. So we want to be able to work with Nassau County, who funds our police officers. We want to be able to work with them so that everyone feels safe. The police officers who are standing on the front lines feel safe. I mean, I know recently the most recent past budget, cut some of our funding for our EMS members. And that truly, struck a nerve with me because throughout the pandemic, they were the ones responding. They were the ones that were putting forth the Narcan trainings and, ensuring that those ran well. So, of course, we absolutely need to protect our first responders. But again, some of our budget areas, we don't really cover the police officers.
Well, you mentioned EMS and you serve as a Uniondale firefighter.
Correct.
What has that experience taught you, and did it motivate you to run in any way?
I won't say that it motivated me to run, but it did teach me how important it is to pretty much have a community that you're able to protect and serve. It also taught me the importance of just giving back. These are oftentimes strangers that we're getting out of our beds for at 3 o'clock in the morning and going to calls. And that sense of belongingness and that sense of being able to provide to someone in need certainly furthered my mission to want to help the community more and find ways that we can improve for everyone in every neighborhood within the town of Hempstead and not just some.
Let's talk about infrastructure. If elected, are there any infrastructure initiatives you would support?
Absolutely. I think that, one of the things that we haven't looked at as much, or the township hasn't looked at as much, is those public-private partnerships. So, Elmont is a perfect example where there was a park that needed to, really, it needed some work. And the town really didn't put forth the funding, I guess, because they just didn't, it wasn't a priority for them. But then UBS came in, and UBS, I believe, granted this park a turf. I think that if the town board would have worked a little bit more with those providers, we could have gotten the entire park done. So I'm looking forward to really looking into those public partnerships. I'm also looking into some of the federally funded community block grants that are out and providing funding to townships, as well as looking for state funding, because it's important that we keep the taxpayers' levy low, but we continue to provide them quality of service. So, our infrastructure is definitely a bit outdated and could certainly use some help.
I spoke with the Democratic candidate for Suffolk County Executive, Dave Colon, and he said too that he would seek federal grants for Suffolk County. It seems like you two agree with your respective areas.
Absolutely, because the funding is out there, and we actually have a representative down in DC right now who actually used to sit on the town board. So I'm sure that he's
Yes,
well
was you.
aware, yeah, of the infrastructure needs that Long Island and really the town of Hempstead needs, and I think that he can be a great partner in ensuring that we get what's needed and get it done.
Well, certainly one infrastructure project that everyone at Hofstra talks about is the Hempstead Turnpike. Are there any measures you would seek to implement as supervisor to improve safety on the major road?
So I believe that the first thing that we need to do is work with our state partners. And, because unfortunately, I don't believe that is a road that is under the town of Hempstead's jurisdiction. But using that, and again, being a first responder in the area, we've covered a lot of those accidents. And, we need to let our representatives know that something needs to happen, whether it's a decrease of the speed limit, which I know, people are not following. There is that camera on Uniondale Avenue and Hempstead Turnpike, as a deterrence as well. But we definitely need to seek other options. And I think that we need to bring more heads to the table to really flesh out an idea to make it safe, because we have students that are continuously crossing that street, and we need to make it safe for them.
Now, of course, your challenger in this race is Supervisor Clavin, who's running for his third term. Are there any decisions he has made that you would have done differently?
I think first and foremost, I would have done differently with the funding, the federal funding, CARES Act money that came in. I would have prioritized ensuring that we sent more to our first responders and our fire departments that really didn't see a large portion of that money, as well as to our school districts that needed it the most. Most school districts got a blanket amount of money, no matter what the size was. And I don't think that that was the most responsible thing to do. I think that we really should have looked at the needs and the sizing of these districts and, made funding decisions based off of that.
Someone may look at your candidacy and say, Olena does not have enough experience to serve as town supervisor compared to Clavin, who's been in office for several decades now. What do you say to that?
I certainly would say that anytime you are starting a new job, one, you are always going to get well equipped with the on experience training. But not just that, I have experience. Am a financial analyst. I work a lot with federally funded dollars, and these are millions of dollars that we're working with our doctors. I've sat on the library board, and I've worked across, with the township with that and getting our budget fully integrated. So, I don't think the experience is what people always think. A lot of times people who get into these positions, they don't have the experience. They're simply appointed and then they kind of move up the ranks. And it's a learning process. Our world is changing tremendously. And, the township doesn't have the space for a supermajority or an echo chamber. We need people who are going to deliver and, stand on that.
Now, you mentioned Belmont Park earlier, and of course, that's where the New York Islanders went to from the Coliseum. And now there's been a lot of talk about a casino going up in the area. Is that something you support?
It's something that I'm listening to the residents about and continue to keeping, that option open.
So, would you, if it were to happen, would you help to increase resources to the area? Would you seek ways to bring businesses, stuff like that?
Yeah, if it's something that happens, we certainly need to, again, have a plan for that. So we understand that one will need to fund and make sure that there are safety measures in play. And I know that's a huge concern for many of the residents. So ensuring that I'm being an advocate and getting those increased resources, but also businesses. It is going to then become a very high traffic area. And there are going to be a lot of opportunities for whether it's our small businesses or some of our more larger business development. We really need to push for that because we want everyone to be able to enjoy that space.
I sensed a little trepidation in your answer a bit earlier. What is something about the casino that is not resonating so much? Out of curiosity.
I won't say it's trepidation. I think that really what it is the community residents they're on a 50-50 split. And I think at the end of the day, we want to be able to listen to them, understand what their concerns are. And I think that the plan is so premature right now, it's very hard to make a decision.
What would be your message in the final stretch of this race for voters to go out and vote specifically for you on election day?
Yeah, my message is, before you head to the polls, certainly look around in your community. And if you're happy with how things are, continue to vote the way that you've been voting. And if you're unhappy, I would say that it's time for a change and you vote a different direction.
Is there anything I have not asked you that you would like to comment on or share with our listeners?
No, not at this time. I want to be the representative who is going to be open-minded and that common sense thinker. I think that it's time that we put the, political divisions aside and start to deliver for the residents, because at the end of the day, there are no Republican or Democratic garbage trucks or plows. They're just a Town of Hempstead plow, and we need to ensure that every community resident is being represented equally.
Democratic candidate for Town of Hempstead Supervisor, Olena Nicks. Olena, thank you for speaking with me today.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.